Hello! The purpose of this video is to teach you everything you need to know about Checkpoint 1 in less than 5 minutes is my goal. So we're starting out here on TaskStream. When you log into TaskStream, you're going to be on the home button and you're going to click something called Mayville State Portfolio. And that's going to bring you to this page right here. And there are 5 things that are required of Checkpoint 1. And just a little bit of background information. The reason why we have checkpoints now and we didn't in the past is because we found that students were getting all the way to student teaching and then they were unable to get all their artifacts and rationale in because they were doing it all at the end. So now we have a checkpoint in intro, so all students get that checkpoint, and then in your methods class you'll have a checkpoint 2, and the final checkpoint is now checkpoint 3. So it's just a way, checks and balances to make sure that you're filling your portfolio in along the way, which is going to make it more quality. So you're welcome for giving you a process to help you be more efficient and more effective in this portfolio presentation. So there are 5 things, as I said, that are required in Checkpoint 1. First thing is the introduction. Your introduction is your educational autobiography. Within that, you're going to upload a professional looking picture. There's 2 right there. Your next step, 3, will be to find an artifact that matches one of the 10 in-task standards. There's 10 of them there. And you need to decide whether it's what standard and then whether it's performance or knowledge. And I'll talk more about that in just a minute. So that's your 3rd thing. Your 4th thing is 1 essential studies artifact, and the 5th thing is 1 artifact from your major or your minor. So those are the 5 requirements. Let me review those with you really quickly. In your introduction, you're going to put your educational autobiography, your introduction, and your professional looking photo. You're going to choose 1 of the 10 in-task standards and upload an artifact there, deciding if it's performance or knowledge, and it's going to go into the correct category. 4th thing you're going to do is your essential studies artifact, and the 5th thing you're going to do is your artifact for your 2nd major or your minor. So there's a couple things out on Moodle that I would like to share with you, so give me a second and I'll pull those up. So out on Moodle you're going to find a link to 3 example portfolios. So I'm throwing a lot of numbers at you here, but here's the first example. So when you click on the Introduction tab, as you will out on TaskStream, the Introduction tab, that's what it's highlighted here, and that's going to indicate where you need to put it. So you need, under the Introduction tab, you're going to put your educational autobiography and your professional looking photo. Okay? Under the in-task standards, you're going to choose 1 artifact and upload it underneath 1 standard, either performance or knowledge. So, like I said here in the yellow, your responsibility is to decide which of those 10 in-task standards your artifact represents, and then decide if it demonstrates performance or knowledge. And I have a little example here for you. I've also broken it into 3 different ways that I've seen portfolios presented. This way is my favorite, when because I'm on the Checkpoint 3 end where I get to see student teachers' finished product. And my favorite is when students have the name of the artifact and then what course it was from, because it just frames that for me. They also include the standards that it hits, and this is only underneath the in-task standards. So they list the standards that are required, and then they write out the rationale. And obviously I have not included the whole rationale, but one of the most powerful things that students can do is refer to those theorists and those practical ideas. And when we assess you, we don't evaluate you only on what artifact you chose, but how you justify that. So that rationale is really, really important. So here's just an example of how one way to set up your artifacts and rationale. So the title, list your standards, remember this is only for in-task, and then write your rationale. So that's going to be underneath one of the 10 in-tasks. So that's one thing you're responsible for. You're also responsible for an essential studies artifact. So this is another way that students tend to write it. They just write a paragraph or 2 paragraphs. They don't put the name of the artifact or separate, they put it right in here. So here's the name of the paper, here's the name of the course. So they do include that, but they don't put it in bold or put it separated. Okay, and your essential studies will not have standards, so typically students write it like this. Regardless of which way you pick, just keep it consistent, so every section should have the same format. And I put here in bold and yellow so you pay attention to it. Eventually at the end you'll need 2 essential studies artifacts, and for Checkpoint 1 you only need 1, but the tricky part is when you're in student teaching, you're like, oh, I didn't save any of those artifacts from my essential studies courses. So those are your gen eds, your classes that everybody in the university has to take, not just teaching majors. So it might be a good idea to write a rationale and upload an artifact for one of those, and then just throw another artifact that you're proud of in the second one. You don't have to write a rationale or anything, but just house it there so you have access to that. And I think that's a good idea. Anything that you're proud of, just put it somewhere in your portfolio, because you can always download it and save it and put it somewhere else. So that would be my piece of advice. Another piece of advice, save your portfolio in a Word document so you always have access to it in case something happens in TaskStream. The third artifact you're going to be responsible for uploading is one from your major or your minor, and this is how I've also seen students do it. Just artifact rationale, a colon, and then they explain it. So those are 3 different ways that you could do your rationale and your artifacts, writing them up, excuse me. But this is my favorite way. I think this is the most concise, and of all the portfolios I reviewed, these are my favorite, the ones that do this. I have another example here, example number 2 out on Moodle. Just shows your picture, so that's 1. Your autobiography, 2. It has a standard for in-task. It's got the artifact, the attachment, the standards, and the rationale. So there's an example of a student who just did an outstanding job. I want to show you good work, so there's her example. There's an essential studies artifact. So what did she do for her essential studies? She's got her attachment, and she's got the paragraph here. And there's the name of her attachment, or her artifact. It's not explicitly stated here, it's just in the attachment, so think about putting a title there for it. And then her second major or minor, which is for her early childhood class, or his early childhood class, uploaded this artifact and this rationale. So that's another example. And the third one is just an example that I found out on Google. So I Googled, we used to have live text portfolio, so I just Googled electronic portfolio. And this person has their name, their introduction, and then this is just kind of how they broke it up. So they put the name, number of the standard, their description, and then an analysis of what they learned, and then also how it demonstrates the competence. So this is just another way, very impressive if you can break it down into a couple different areas. So this is just how that person decided to organize their portfolio. So as I said, out on Moodle you've got 3 different ideas of how to organize it. I'm going to review one more time. You're in charge of your introduction, which is your educational autobiography and a professional looking photo. You need to choose one of the 10 in-task standards and upload an artifact to that and a rationale. You need to go to your essential studies, upload 1 artifact and rationale, and your second major minor, upload 1 artifact and rationale. As always, if you have questions, do not hesitate to ask. Thanks.